Which of the following sensors is not typically used to measure engine speed? RPM. A. Inductive crankshaft position sensor. B. Hall effect crankshaft position sensor. C. Piezoelectric knock sensor. D. Optical encoder crankshaft position sensor. 2. A manifold absolute pressure, MAP, sensor is primarily used to measure A. The volume of air entering the engine. B. The pressure inside the intake manifold. C. The temperature of the intake air. D. The oxygen content of the exhaust gas. 3. What type of sensor is typically used to measure the amount of oxygen in the exhaust gas of an engine? A. Thermistor. B. Piezoresistive sensor. C. Zirconia oxygen sensor. D. Variable reluctance sensor. 4. Which sensor is responsible for detecting engine knocking or detonation? A. Mass airflow, MAP, sensor. B. Knock sensor. C. Throttle position sensor, TPS. D. Ham's half position sensor, CMP. 5. Purpose of a throttle position sensor, TPS, is to A. Measure the amount of air entering the engine. B. Measure the position of the throttle plate. C. Measure the temperature of the coolant. D. Measure the speed of the vehicle. 6. Which of the following sensors is used in an anti-lock braking system, ABS, to detect wheel speed? A. Accelerometer. B. Wheel speed sensor, typically inductive or Hall effect. C. Pressure transducer. D. Urate sensor. 7. What type of sensor is commonly used in airbag systems to detect a collision? A. Ultrasonic sensor. B. Infrared sensor. C. Accelerometer. D. Barometric pressure sensor. 8. A mass airflow, MAF, sensor directly measures A. Pressure of the air entering the engine. B. The temperature of the air entering the engine. C. Mass of the air entering the engine. D. The volume of the air entering the engine. 9. Which sensor is primarily used to detect the driver's steering input in an electronic stability control, ESC, system? A. Urate sensor. B. Steering angle sensor. C. Wheel speed sensor. D. Lateral acceleration sensor. 10. What is the primary function of a coolant temperature sensor, CTS? A. To measure the temperature of the engine oil. B. To measure the temperature of the engine coolant. C. To measure the temperature of the ambient air. D. To measure the temperature of the exhaust gas. 11. Which sensor technology is most susceptible to contamination and therefore requires regular cleaning or replacement? A. Inductive sensors. B. Hall effect sensors. C. Hot wire MAF sensors. D. Piezoelectric sensors. 12. A limp home mode is often triggered when a sensor fails and sends an implausible signal. Which sensor failure would be least likely to trigger a limp home mode? A. Crankshaft position sensor. B. Throttle position sensor. C. Ambient air temperature sensor. D. Mass airflow sensor. 13. What is the typical output signal of an inductive wheel speed sensor? A. A DC voltage proportional to speed. B. A digital pulse width modulated PWM signal. C. An AC voltage with frequency proportional to speed. D. A current proportional to speed. 14. Which of the following is not a common application of ultrasonic sensors in automobiles? A. Parking assist systems. B. Blind spot detection. C. Automatic emergency braking. D. Tire pressure monitoring. 15. What is the typical output of a piezoelectric knock sensor? A. A digital signal indicating the presence or absence of knock. B. An analog voltage signal proportional to the intensity of the knock. C. PWM signal proportional to the knock frequency. D. A resistance change proportional to the knock. 16. Which sensor is used to measure the angular velocity of a vehicle around its vertical axis? A. Accelerometer. B. Yaw rate sensor. C. Roll rate sensor. D. Pitch rate sensor. 17. Which of the following best describes the operating principle of a Hall effect sensor? A. Measures changes in resistance due to strain. B. Generates a voltage when subjected to pressure. C. Produces a voltage proportional to a magnetic field. D. Measures temperature based on the change in resistance of a material. 18. What does TPMS stand for? A. Throttle position monitoring system. B. Tire pressure monitoring system. C. Transmission performance management system. D. Traction power management system. 19. Which type of sensor is often used to measure the fluid level in a fuel tank? A. Optical sensor. B. Capacitive sensor. C. Inductive sensor. D. Resistive sensor. 20. In an electronically controlled suspension system, what type of sensor might be used to detect the ride height of the vehicle? A. Pressure sensor. B. Accelerometer. C. Proximity sensor. D. All of the above. 21. Which of the following is a disadvantage of using a hot wire MAF sensor? A. It is not very accurate. B. It is susceptible to contamination. C. It is not suitable for turbocharged engines. D. It has a slow response time. 22. What is the purpose of a crankshaft position sensor, CKP, in relation to fuel injection and ignition? A. To measure the amount of fuel being injected. B. To measure the air temperature entering the engine. C. To provide timing information for fuel injection and ignition. D. To control the throttle plate position. 23. What is the purpose of the exhaust gas recirculation, EGR, Valve position sensor. A. To monitor the temperature of the exhaust gas being recirculated. B. To control the amount of exhaust gas being recirculated. C. To provide feedback to the ECU regarding the position of the EGR valve. D. To measure the oxygen content of the recirculated exhaust gas. 24. Which of the following is not a common type of pressure sensor used in automotive applications? A. Piezoresistive. B. Capacitive. C. Inductive. D. Thermocouple. 25. What is the typical operating principle of a resistive type coolant temperature sensor, CTS? A. The resistance of the sensor increases with increasing temperature. B. The resistance of the sensor decreases with increasing temperature. C. The resistance of the sensor remains constant regardless of temperature. D. Sensor generates a voltage proportional to the temperature. 26. What does the term sensor fusion refer to in the context of automotive technology? A. The process of combining multiple sensor signals to provide a more accurate and reliable representation of the vehicle's environment. B. The process of calibrating a sensor to ensure accurate readings. C. The process of replacing a faulty sensor with a new one. D. The process of chemically bonding different sensor materials together. 27. Which sensor is crucial for enabling stop-start systems in modern vehicles? A. Ambient light sensor. B. Brake pedal position sensor. C. Rain sensor. D. Sun load sensor. 28. What is the most common material used in the sensing element of a lambda sensor, oxygen sensor? A. Platinum. B. Zirconia. C. Silicon. D. Aluminum. 29. Which type of sensor is used to measure the torque applied to the steering column in an electric power steering, EPS, system? A. Strain gauge. B. Inductive sensor. C. Hall effect sensor. D. Capacitive sensor. 30. Which of the following is a key advantage of using MEMS, microelectromechanical systems, sensors in automotive applications? A. Higher power consumption. B. Larger size and weight. C. Lower cost and increased integration capabilities. D. Lower accuracy and reliability.